Welcome everyone to this session of eTalk with esic. I'm Carlos Victor Costa. I'm the Director of Postgraduate Programs in the area of Communication and Media Studies. This session is organized by esic Professional Development Unit, a department that we have that provides advice and support to our students and alumni in the areas of employability, entrepreneurship, and network. A little bit of housekeeping to start. This session will be recorded and the file will be shared afterwards with the participants. We'll have a question and answer session at the end, the last 10-15 minutes of this conversation with our guest. So please send out your questions through the chat. And finally, please keep your video and audio off. Now let's talk about our guest. Well, we have today the honor and the pleasure to have with us David Urgell, Senior Vice President of Strategy, Business and Development and Content Distribution for Viacom CBS Networks International for the areas of EMEA and Asia. In this role, he is responsible for developing new business and expand the presence of the brands of the company, including MTV, Nickelodeon, Comedy Central, and Paramount in the regions. He is a very experienced professional and oversees the digital and content distribution of the entire content portfolio. In this position, he plays a key role on the senior management team and the senior global distribution team. Dave has a fantastic professional track record and is a global citizen. He was born in Spain, lived in Amsterdam, and travels extensively across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. But we are very happy that as well as that he is part of our alumni. He completed the esic Business and Market School GESCO program, which is one of our main academic programs in the area of marketing and sales. So thank you for being here with us, David. And let's start, shall we?
Yes, thank you very much, Carlos, for your kind introduction. And to be honest, when I was looking at when I finished my GESCO program, I realized how old I am because it was in '98. But I mean, since then, I mean, I still have a really good, deep relationship with the school, and for me, it's a pleasure an honor to have this session with you today. And I hope that the people listening to the webinar get a good impression, and they end up the session knowing a little bit more about the media industry, which I think it's a really interesting industry that everybody knows because everybody knows about Netflix, TikTok, and everybody watches series, so it's something that is on the mouth of everyone at the moment.
Evidently, and with this crisis, I just happened to be in contact with research that shows that by Nielsen, showing that in the U.S. in the range of 25 years to 54, the consumption of media during this period of obviously of confining has increased by 100%. So it's a new media landscape with a lot of potential. And I would like to start with the first question: how this media is shaped, how the media industry is shaped here in Spain and worldwide, David?
I don't know if the people is watching the slides. I prepared like some slides like to give a little bit of background information for people to follow. I mean, first thing I want to say is that what happens in Spain is what is happening at the international level. One of the trends that we've seen is that many of the players that we've seen today are global brands, and they play a role at many markets. So I'm talking about companies like Netflix, companies like HBO, like the studios, they produce, for many markets. So every now and then, I mean, this industry is more global. So I don't know if we can move for the next slide. So what I wanted to say in the first slide is that, the industry in Spain is very crowded. I mean, one thing that it's not a lot of mention in the news is that the entertainment industry, and when we talk about entertainment, we not just talk about video, but also online, newspapers, radio. It's a very important industry in Spain. It accounts for like 20 billion euros in terms of revenues, and it's like a 3% of the GDP. So it's a big industry that sometimes people is not aware of. And this industry is also growing. It's a growing industry. Some segments of the industry are not growing, like newspapers, but some others are growing at a higher speed, like video online, OTT. So it's an industry that is in growth. So it's a good place for people looking for a new job to join. So as you can see, it's kind of, the industry is very crowded. Later we will see how the players are structured, because not all the players play in the same kind of field, but there are many players, like more than 50 players. And as I said before, there are common brands and common companies that play in all the markets, like Netflix, Amazon Prime, HBO. These are global players that play a significant role in every market. We can move to the next slide, where we will see, that what happens in Spain is what is happening in international level. It's like there are many players, and there are many acronyms in this industry. So forgive me, if everyone is not familiar. When we talk about MVPDs, these are like traditional, this is Movistar in Spain. It's what we call multi-video platform distribution. But then we have all these kind of streaming devices like the Apple TV, the Roku, the Amazon Fire. Then we have the connected televisions like the Samsungs, the Hisense, the LGs. Then we have the game consoles that people can access content through them. Then we have all the kind of advertising platforms and the more like digital platforms like Facebook. We'll talk about TikTok, YouTube, the ad networks, the virtual MVPDs. This is kind of Movistar Lite in Spain, for instance. And then we have this new category of OTTs with companies like Netflix, but also the ad-supported like companies like Pluto. We can move. So this gives you a battlefield of that is many players fishing in this kind of new media industry, and all with different kind of economic interest. We can move to the next slide. Just to conclude this kind of first question, it's been a really active market for M&A recently. So the name of the game here is gaining scale. So, and one of the more clear examples of this was the acquisition of Disney, the acquisition of Fox by Disney. This was this last March. It was, we never thought that, the Murdochs, the family, will sell the business. And basically one of the reasonings, apart from making some cash out of the sale, is that we don't have enough scale to compete with the big media internet companies like Facebook, YouTube, Netflix. So they sold the company, most of the assets to Disney, and Disney basically used much of these assets to launch the Disney Plus service that we already have available in Spain. My company where I work is kind of CBS Viacom, another kind of example. We merged in August. The acquisition was approved by the end of the year. But you can see many more Discovery bought scripts. So, and this is not the end. Probably going to be more kind of M&A in the coming years. So it's a quite active industry in terms of M&A. So summary of this kind of first part is like, it's a very crowded industry that plays a significant role. At the international level, the entertainment industry is making 170 billion. This year is a bit strange because of the COVID. So advertising is going down, cinemas revenues are going down, but overall in regular terms, it's like 170 American billion industry that is growing in some segments, and that has a lot of players looking for like blue seas in terms of new markets to fish, and with a lot of M&A activity. So this is kind of a big introduction of what the industry is. Carlos?
Yes, well, I'm amazed with the amount of different players here. And by the way, there's a kind of a soup of letters in terms of how to explain the different segments. There are SVOD, TVOD, AVOD. Can you take us through all these letters and all these business models, Dave?
Yeah, if we can move to the next slide, I will try to give a little bit of, my idea here is that everybody understands a little bit more about how the business models work and who plays in which kind of battlefield. So if we can move to the next slide, thank you, please. So this is kind of from, top level. We have the traditional free-to-air. This is kind of the Televisión Española in Spain, or Mediaset, or ProSieben, and putting like BBC, so the traditional incumbents or players that have been playing like a free-to-air. Many of these companies that are launching, they are like trying to launch, OTT streaming services. We will see later on the slide. Then on the second group, we have what we call pay television. Pay television is this acronym, and MVPDs, which is multi-video platform distribution. So the traditional pay platforms that also have a role in the OTT. And BMVPD is kind of when they just sell like a small bundle of channels for like a smaller price. This is the example of Now TV in the UK, with which is a company of Sky, or Movistar Little in Spain. So they launch like a only OTT proposition. This is called BMVPD. And then on the third column is what we call OTT. And OTT is a very big word that not only plays for video, but for many other things. And inside OTT, we have different business models. One is what we call AVOD. It's services that are financed through advertising. So people doesn't need to pay. So they download the application and they can stream content. And in this content, there is some advertising, and the companies get the money through advertising. The most popular platforms are Pluto, Shumo, Tubi at international level. Later, we will see that there's been a lot of, this segment is like a growing segment, and there has been a lot of acquisitions in this segment because traditional media companies, they see this as a way of growing, as a way also exploring the rights they have, the libraries, the old content, because I mean, putting the old content in YouTube doesn't bring enough revenues. So later we'll talk more about AVOD. BOD, it's kind of new acronym, is broadcasting VOD. This is basically the traditional free-to-air stations that are launching services to monetize the libraries. So Mi Tele is kind of example of Telecinco in Spain. My5 is the Channel 5 one in the UK. This is kind of is a mix sometimes of AVOD, so based on advertising, but also they're starting to charge for subscription. So it's connected to the traditional free-to-air station. Then I think this is very kind of, everybody knows about this acronym, subscription VOD. And in here we have a lot of players, like many international brands like Netflix, HBO Max, Disney Plus, CBS All Access, Showtime, Peacock, many players. Later we will see that not all these players have the same goals.
Yeah.
And then the last one is the transactional one. Is when you go into the iTunes and you want to buy the movie, and you just pay for renting the movie, or you just buy the movie. And this is still a big business. I mean, although we may think that because of the SVOD services, the transactional VOD is not growing, it's still a substantial business. So this is like a little bit of a framework. We can move to the next slide. And then on this next slide, we'll see that, all these kind of companies, they try to get money from the consumers. It can be from in a different way. One way is D2C, is direct to consumer. So they put the application on the market, on the App Store, like Netflix. Mm-hmm. You download the application and you start paying. So in order to do that, they need to have an application, payment, billing services. They need to have the right content. So this is like directly going through the consumers. Then there is another way of getting to the consumers, is what we call B2B2C. It's a middle way. So companies like my company, like Viacom CBS, sometimes we have services, like we have one service called Login. It's like a preschool video service. And we publish this kind of content, video content, into Apple channels, into Amazon channels. So people subscribe through these Amazon and Apple channels to our services. So we don't go directly to the end consumer, but we use a middleman, and this middleman, like Apple or Amazon, have a big footprint of consumers. So we use this kind of middleman to get to the end consumer. And the B2B is the traditional kind of, we sell our content like Comedy Central or Fox Channel or National Geographic to companies like Movistar. And then we get a payment through the number of subscribers or fixed fee. So these are the traditional ways of making the business in this kind of media industry. And this links to the previous slide about what are the different kind of business lines. So we can move to the next slide, please. Yeah, this is what I...
Yes, that's the question I would like to ask you, because in the middle of all these competitive arenas, what are really the key players, and what are their role in the market?
Yeah, I mean, in here I put like a different kind of logos to a little bit explain that there are many players, and not all the players have the same goals. And this is important because when you have different goals, you can see that they have different strategies. Okay, we start with Netflix, that everybody knows. I think now they are like they grown subscriptions a lot because of the coronavirus, but I think they got to 160 million worldwide. It's an impressive growth. They are the market leader, and they have transformed the industry. They are the kind of the benchmark in terms of productions, in terms of a technical platform. Basically, they are in there. We can go back to the previous slide. They are in there to kind of to gain the maximum share of revenue of the consumers. They started being like basically a D2C, so people downloaded the application, subscribe. But now more and more, they are also integrating Netflix into the MVPD. So you can subscribe to Netflix through your Sky subscription, through your Movistar subscription. So they are now also doing this kind of B2B2C. So joining forces with the traditional, basically to get maximum reach. Then we have people like Amazon Prime Video. Amazon is like it's an interesting company. Basically, what they try to do is to create an ecosystem. So they want us, consumers, to subscribe to Prime, the Prime service. And with the Prime service, we get the e-commerce. But with the Prime service, we get many other things. One of the things is the video, but also we get music, we get cloud storage, we get many other services. So basically, the way to retain us is with the Prime subscription.
Let's talk about what a product roadmap actually looks like. So I grabbed a couple examples here for us to take a look at. Here is one that's basically the main things that I want to point out here are.
Sorry, I don't know why the sound.
Okay.
It's Carlos, maybe?
No, it's not Carlos. I think it's someone else. So what I was saying, I mean, the Amazon system is to create an ecosystem, and they want us to have the Prime subscription, and for this they give the video service. The video service is getting much better. They're putting a lot of money in originals. They license a lot of content, so it's really kind of a competitor. But I mean, we had to put it like they are not really into the video only. They are into creating this kind of ecosystem. Then you have Apple. They launched Apple TV Plus. They put some original productions. It looks that they are going to be now licensing content. What is the goal of Apple? Again, it's an ecosystem. They want to sell hardware. When you buy a new iPhone, when you buy a new iPad, a new Mac, they give you 1 year for free. So they want people to be more engaged with the Apple ecosystem. So they are in there to give an additional service in which people will get some additional benefit, and this benefit is the video service. Then you have companies like Kiwi. I mean, I don't know how many you know about that one. It's a new OTT platform meant to be pure mobile and short form. It's launched during kind of the lockdown, and it's really struggling to get traction. But I mean, it's like this kind of pure mobile, short form platform. Then we have Disney. Disney, it's like a legacy media company that is now going into streaming. They are kind of reshuffling completely the business model and going from linear to non-linear. They have a big, I mean, everybody knows Disney brand. They have big library content. They have big franchises, and they've been really successful. I mean, again, they go D2C, but also partnering with the traditional DMVPDs. CBS All Access is the company where I work. They are present in the US. We have plans to expand internationally. So I would say many of these media international companies are looking into streaming in different ways, but not all of them have the same goals. And this is important to know when we look at the ecosystem and the media landscape. We can move to the next one. I mean, when we're talking about competition and how they compete, one of the questions is how we acquire the clients. And this is linked to the last slide. I mean, one thing is we go through the website. So people download the application. We go to the app stores. We use the connected devices. So depending on how is our mix of subscription, our P&L will look more profitable or less profitable. I mean, the more that we can do ourselves with our websites, the less we have to pay to third parties. One of the important things is that Amazon is becoming one of these big hubs for creating subscriptions. I mean, they have a massive amount of Prime members, and through this kind of massive amount of Prime members, they can market many services. So they are becoming like a big hub for promoting third-party video services. So this is what I wanted to say here. There are different ways, and it's a mix of how you get to these subscribers. Once you get the subscribers, and let's go to the next slide, we have to think about how we retain these subscribers, because I mean, the retention of the subscribers is becoming like, you know, a big thing. And this is kind of a very kind of, and this connected with the SIG is where the marketing goes in, and not only marketing. So one thing is the franchises. I mean, many of these platforms, they have big franchises, and you know, the content is the best way to market the service. So when you have things like Game of Thrones, when you have things like Star Trek, Stranger Things, these are like key titles, key franchises that drive subscription, but also drive attention. Then there's the typical kind of marketing tools like the pricing, the you subscribe per year, you subscribe on a yearly basis, discounts, bundling. You subscribe to the, it's like this, it is like Amazon. You subscribe to the Prime service, and then you get like the video together. So they bundle services. And also, I mean, in how many devices you can watch this service. I mean, I think this is becoming more like a commodity. You can watch it in all these kind of connected TV, LG, Samsung, the game consoles, the Chromecast, the Rokus. And the fourth pillar, I would say, is the live events. One of the things that online video consumption is not all on, I mean, if the linear consumption is yet important, is on the live events, so the sports. So the companies, I mean, is not yet inserted in the many of the SVOD services, but live events are going to become really important to drive retention and viewership and subscription. So we can move forward, kind of elaborating a little bit on that one and how important the content is. I mean, it's give you some numbers of how much media companies are paying for all titles. I mean, Friends is a Warner show. When you talk to the SVOD platform, they will never tell you how successful it is. But I mean, it's one of the top stream shows worldwide still, and it's been forever and ever in our minds. In my company, I can say the number because it's public. We have South Park. We sold South Park to Warner for 500 million in 5 years. It's like there's a lot of money because all IPs that are relevant still have a place in all these services. People is looking for the new things, but also looking for the show that they remember. And this is why having the IPs is really important. It's the kind of brand.
I really like to see Seinfeld, my favorite sitcom in this chart, David.
So I mean, they pay 100 million. It's a very old show. I mean, it's maybe more than 15 years old, and they still pay a lot of money because I mean, when they put these shows on the platform, they know people is gonna watch it over and over. And when you binge watch, sometimes, oh, Friends, I wanna watch an episode. You know what it's about the show. You know the people in there. I mean, but you still can watch a show over and over. So it's like there is value. And then on the left hand side, as I told you, I mean, is the time to be an actor, a producer, a director, or to be involved in all this kind of creativity? Because I mean, the media budgets for production are growing and growing. I mean, we see more and more productions happening, so it's a good place to be in this ecosystem. Just to give you an idea, these are the budgets that the companies are. I mean, the numbers are very small, but in Disney is spending like 27 billion in content, Netflix 15 and growing. Where I work is like 13 billion. It's like we're talking about billions. And there are companies like Amazon and Apple. They have a lot of cash, and they're gonna put more money into the services. So it's not gonna be declining. It's gonna be growing, and you wanna be in an industry that is growing and not declining. So this this is one area of the business that is going to be growing. We can go to the next slide, please. But as I said before, it's a lot of competition. So basically, one of the big fights is to be on the first screen. When you turn on your kind of Samsung TV, or when you turn on your kind of Movistar subscription, if your logo is on the top, is there, you have more chances that people watch your content. And the more they watch your content, the more engaged they are, and the more stay, and the more they pay. So it's going to be a big fight to be relevant. And to be relevant, you need to invest in customer acquisition, in content creation. So it's and also to partner with the device manufacturers, with the MVPDs. So it's a lot of partnership here as well. So this I think with this I conclude this kind of how the ecosystem and how the players compete, and we can move to the next.
So let's talk about another perspective, and let's talk about the consumers. Now we discussed the providers, but let's talk about the consumer. So how the content consumption habits are changing in the last few years? Can you tell us a little bit about trends? And I'd like you, if you can, to explore a question that, considering that you have an international experience, if you can tell us something about different habits comparing, for example, Europe and Asia or different countries, if you have noticed different trends as well.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think now we are in this kind of lockdown period, it's a bit different. As you said at the beginning, yeah. We see massive increases in linear consumption, in SVOD consumption, because people are spending more time at home and they have more time to, on this pie that you see on the screen, the kind of other non-work activities we are doing less of those, and people are spending more time with more on related to internet and media. I wanted to put this kind of chart because it's a funny one. You use 31 hours and 29 minutes, and we have 24 hours a day. There's a lot of multitasking. I mean, people is watching TV and you are on social media. People is going to work on the car and they are listening to a podcast. So there's 7 hours of multitasking, and this is important to know. I mean, and the kind of what is related to kind of media is this 12 hours. So it's half part of the day we're spending in things related to video, audio, gaming, social media, and attending live events and so on. So it's like a funny way of watching what you're doing in a day. So we're spending almost the same time watching videos than sleeping. And this, by the way, is kind of growing. The video consumption is growing. So we need to deduct time from sleeping or from working or doing more multitasking. And when you were asking me about if these are global trends, yeah, absolutely, they are global trends. I mean, this is not only happening in Spain or in Europe. We're seeing this happening all over the place. I mean, maybe the device in which people is using is different. In developing markets, it's more mobile. So Latin America, Africa is they are mobile. I mean, Southeast Asia, mobile first markets, because they haven't had the time to go to the fiber and it's not that developed. So mobile is the tool that they use to access many of the services. But I mean, apart from that, is this kind of global trends. So if we move to the next slide, we'll just focus on what we've been talking today, which is the kind of media. As we see here, total time spent, the forecast is that it's going to be growing. And this is kind of US, but as I said before, this is international trends. What is happening in the US is going to happen in international markets. Video is the big part of the pie, but it's still growing. And I mean, as you know, any other of the kind of the except the other, which is made of the live events and so on. But I mean, it's a big part of the day and it's still growing. I mean, 0.5 because it's coming from a big base, but it's still growing. So we can go to the next slide, in which we will see how we break down this kind of video in between traditional television and digital video. And in here we see what's going on. And in here we understand why many of the media traditional companies like Disney, Viacom, CBS, Warner are developing the non-linear services like Disney Plus or CBS All Access, because the traditional television still a big chunk of the day of the watching time, but it's going to decline. And if we could see this kind of chart divided by age groups, we'll see that the segment in between like 15, 24 is much heavily into the digital video, and the older kind of segment of population like the plus 45 still on traditional television. So if you want to access the kind of the younger generation, the digital video offering is very important. So we can move to the next slide. This is like related. I mean, everybody knows about YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I mean, this is what I wanted to share with everybody here listening to us, that the content from traditional media companies posted in Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube is very important in these platforms. I mean, although we think that this like, legacy old companies, what we post in traditional, in new internet platforms like Facebook or Instagram, it's a big chunk of the content in these platforms. You see, in Facebook, 37% of the content watch is coming from media companies. Then you have the brands and the influencers. But I mean, the traditional media companies, they play a big role into the viewership of these new kind of digital platforms. We can move to the next slide. And in here, I mean, on the next slide, I want to say, I mean, there is more choice than ever. We spoke before about the e-book because it's a segment that is growing a lot. In here, I can talk about my company because we have one of the leading platforms in e-book, which is called Pluto. The name comes from the planet. It's a platform that is live in the US with like 22 million monthly active users. It's launched in Latin America. It's live in Germany, in the UK, and we have big plans to launch it in more countries in Europe in the coming months. We bought the company like 1 year ago for 340 million. Fox recently acquired like TUI for 440 million. Comcast bought Shumo for an extra amount. So it's a segment of the industry that is growing because it gives people like a curated experience with like free content. And there's a lot of M&A kind of movement, and it's a segment that is going to be growing. And digital advertising in closed environments with created content is something that is going to grow. So I just wanted to mention that. And then to conclude this kind of section, I wanted to mention about TikTok. I mean, everybody knows about TikTok. It has a massive user base. They reach 1 billion. I don't know if we can go to the next slide, please. They reach, I mean, the left-hand side chart, it's not the COVID curve, but it looks like. This is, how many subscribers and how long it took them to get to the subscribers they have. So TikTok, they reach 1 billion users in less than 5 years. I mean, the fastest ever platform to get to 1 billion. You see Facebook, they have 2.5, but it took them like almost 10 years, 8 years to get to 1 billion. So it's a massive platform. It was not existing 5 years ago. The mother company is called ByteDance. Recently, they hired the Kevin Mayer, that was the guy in Disney running the Disney Plus. So they have big executives from traditional media companies running the company. They have seen exponential growth. We know about TikTok, but they have many other applications, more than 100. They are massively popular in India with music services. So I think it's going to be a player that we will need to track very closely in the coming years, because I think they are there to grow in video, in music, and it's a company that is hiring massively a lot of people. So it's something that we need to keep an eye very close. And with this, I'm just giving like a bit of I hope that for the ones that are not familiar with the industry, they have a more clear view of what the industry. And for the people that is familiar, I hope that I haven't been, repeating myself a lot. I have some slides to conclude the session today. If we can move to the next slide.
Yeah, I'd like to ask you something. Have a sip of water, David. And let me ask you something. As you know, I direct a master's degree in corporate communication advertising. How do you see the advertising world and industry related to the new media landscape?
Well, I mean, maybe this is more like an anecdotic, but I mean, TikTok is putting marketing budgets in television. Amazon is putting a lot of money in traditional television. So when you think about this, you may think this doesn't make a lot of sense because these companies, like internet companies, they should be putting money into digital. But no, I mean, they are putting also money into traditional television, which is like, it's something interesting because I mean, the way today to get to massive audiences, television still plays a role. So I think this is one thing. So new digital companies still putting money in traditional television marketing budgets. I mean, we've seen in TV. I mean, a lot of advertising from Amazon recently. I mean, they put massive budgets behind, and TikTok as well. Said another thing which is interesting is that since we will have more kind of digital inventories, like with this kind of AVOD platforms like Pluto, Tubi, Shumo, there's going to be more curated, very close to traditional TV, but with massive reach, curated digital inventories. And this is important for media agencies and for direct advertisers, because I mean, they know, I mean, the internet advertising is massive, but sometimes they complain about the bots, they don't know where the advertising is going. So with this kind of AVOD, we think we're gonna get the benefits of the segmentation that digital provides, but also the curation of the TV and the experience. I mean, you can watch like Pluto on your big screen. You can have an advertising, but the advertising, they know that they are sending this advertising to you, so it's more kind of individual. And then the experience is bigger because sometimes when you see advertising in Facebook, you don't know who is watching this. You don't know how far for how long they have watched the advertising. So I think this is a trend that we're seeing as well, and this is why AVOD is a segment that is going to be growing. So I mean, these kind of two elements for me are kind of, I mean, and this is not like a marketing advertising conversation, but we've seen this kind of two elements happening at the time, and I think it's pretty interesting what we're seeing happening today.
Good, thank you. So let's wrap up with this reflection about the impact of the crisis on the industry, right?
I think, to be honest, we're still still soon to know what is going to be the impact, but we've seen some things already happening. I mean, I can start from the bottom. Cinema, people is not going to the cinema, so I mean, this is one clear thing. So when they open up again the cinemas, I don't know how many people will go. I mean, it's going to take some time until the cinema goes to normal. And this is why we've seen some companies, like some media companies, like instead of going to the cinemas, the first window, they they premiere the content in streaming services. I don't think this is going to happen for big movies. So I think there are many movies already finished on the pipeline that we will need to wait until they go into the big screen, like last James Bond movie, or in my company we have Top Gun. After 30 years of the first Top Gun, we launching the next Top Gun, and we're gonna wait until cinemas are open to premiere. So cinemas, negative for the time being, is gonna take some time. OTT video, massive, growing, people subscribing to export services, and this is gonna be a trend that is gonna be maintained. Pay TV, I mean, people it's gonna be a crisis, economic crisis. Maybe people is gonna be unsubscribing from the services. But in here, the way that the companies are able to bundle with the fiber and mobile services is going to be key to sustain the business. And free to air, people is watching more TV, but the advertising money is not where it used to be. But we are confident that the money is going to go back to the free to air. And although it's going to be declining a little bit, I mean, it's going to be still a big business for the time being.
Well, we are reaching to almost to the final part of our interview and conversation within this eTalk series, and I'd just like to ask you a final question, David. As an ESIC student, part of our alumni, can you give to the future professionals of this, your market now, 3 good pieces of advice for the next couple of years?
I think in my speech, I think I've been giving like, I mean, it's an industry that is growing and needs digital professionals. So it's if I was like finishing my MBA or my career, it's something that I would look to work in. It's a very dynamic industry as well. I mean, you have to be ready for a lot of change. So since I started working in this industry, now in Viacom, before in Fox, there has been a lot of change, and change is permanent in the industry. It's one of the most exposed industries in terms of digital, but we need digital profiles because everything is going digital. So it's a growing industry that is growing. So another advice is like, you need to be ready for change. I mean, change is the new normal. So people need to be able to change jobs. Also, it's important to be able to change country. I mean, as I said before, I mean, the industry is global. I mean, we are here in Madrid, but I mean, you have to be ready to move to another country. I did myself. I've been living in the Netherlands for some time. It's always positive to see how other markets work, and I mean, if you want to compete in this kind of business environment today, you have to be ready to work with colleagues in different places of the world. I mean, you have to adapt your kind of your way of working. And to be honest, from my experience, the Spanish kind of professionals, we have a way of working with many countries that it makes it really valuable for companies, because we have a really easy way to work with many international markets. So, I mean, nice industry to work, be ready to change. Digital is a must, and be ready to work in different in different markets. I think because this, even more when you're starting to work, it gives your kind of CV a better profile to compete in this very international landscape.
Thank you very much. I think everyone will appreciate your sharing your wisdom and advice with us, David. So now we are concluding our first part, and let's move to the question answer with questions from our audience. So do we have the questions for David? So
this was one.
You want to wrap up? Yeah, sorry.
I mean, there was a conclusion here, but I think that we spoke, Carlos, before. I mean, this is more about the industry cord cutting, so people unsubscribe will accelerate, but people will subscribe more to SBOT. So we need to jump into this SBOT market. I mean, there's going to be more content investment, so the fight for talent and IP is going to be important. There are going to be new players in the market like TikTok. The window, so going from production to cinemas, is going to change. Partnership is going to be critical to succeed. ABOT, as I said, is going to grow, and we're going to see more M&A activity in the industry. So I think this is going to give you a little bit of wrap-up conclusion from the session. And I'm ready to answer. I'm a little bit afraid of the questions, but I mean, I'm ready to answer whatever question the people attending today may have had.
Okay, so I got one here, and from Cyril. What do you think of the concept of connect entertainment? Spreading one IP over a large web of media like movies, games, theme parks, VR/AR. This way one could keep the audience across a fragmented media landscape.
I mean, I totally agree with Cyril. I mean, by the way, we know each other from our business in Germany. I mean, IPs, as I said, it's an important part of the business here. So when we talk about things like, I don't know, SpongeBob or Paw Patrol or Top Gun or Star Wars, these are big IPs that they do not just live in a movie. We try to expand these IPs into different kind of elements. So it's like we have the movie, we have the park, the attraction, we have the gadget that we sell, we can do like a game. So, I mean, we truly believe that when you have a big and an important IP, this IP has to be developed in many different ways, so people can enjoy this IP in not just in the movie or in the series, but the difficulty here is to have these IPs. So this is why it's super important to be able, as a media company, to have this legacy of library of IPs that you can work and develop in many different kind of environments, that you can have the maximum touch points or eyeballs possible. I hope I answered to Cyril.
So thank you, Sarah, for your answer. Dave, there's a lot of conversation about the new normal. I think there's actually too much conversation to normal. Yeah, I think there is a new abnormal, in fact. But can you tell us from a business perspective, what is real, what is wishful thinking? What's your expectations? Not do you think the world will change, or what is a realistic expectation for what's coming in the next 6 to 12 months?
The world was changing already. Maybe this is going to be accelerating some of the changes. And some things are gonna stay. But the world was changing already. I mean, this is not something new. Maybe there's some acceleration in some. I mean, one of the things I think everybody will agree, this kind of not working. I think we prove at a worldwide level that people can still work from home. And it's been a massive experiment with many people in many countries working from home. And it's not that we work less. I think we work even more. And the work has been done. So I think this is going to be something that we will see more. I still think that people would like to go back to the offices to see colleagues, but I think we're going to be more flexible. So I think this is something we will see. In my industry, I think the COVID may have accelerated some of this kind of transition from linear to non-linear. And some of the dogmas about the windowing, going first to the cinemas and not going first to the streaming, may have changed. So yeah, I mean, this could have accelerated a little bit the trends here. But I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, there's a lot of talk about the new normal, no? What is the new normal? Work-wise, remote working is going to happen more. Working from home, having kind of remote teams everywhere. My industry, the non-linear online is going to be accelerating. All that has to be with digital is going to be accelerated by this kind of COVID situation, to be honest.
And what about the subscription costs? So from a free TV subsidized by advertising to everyone having to pay for, and I saw one of your slides having 3 or 4. I have Netflix and I have Amazon, for example. So don't you think there will be an impact because there's a recession coming?
Yeah, I mean, you say, I mean, you have 2. I mean, what they say, like in 2-3 years, we'll have like 4, depending on the markets, to be honest, okay? But as I said in the presentation, not all the players have the same kind of business model. So Amazon, you pay for maybe you're gonna keep paying for Prime.
Yes, it's my case.
If you don't watch any show from Prime Video, which there are some good shows, by the way, you're gonna pay for the delivery. Then you have Netflix. Maybe you pay for Spotify. I mean, I don't know. But I mean, if you start like thinking about how many things you pay subscriptions, you go with a big amount of subscriptions. Crisis-wise, I think, yeah, I mean, there's gonna be like people canceling subscriptions, but this is gonna impact as well of the pay TV traditional players. I mean, maybe people is like, okay, I just pay for my kind of mobile subscription, and I just get rid of the pay TV, and I have Netflix and Disney. Another thing that is coming is 5G. So with 5G networks, I mean, maybe it's gonna be like taking some time. You don't need your kind of fiber at home, and you just have like a 5G connection at home, and then you have Netflix, I don't know, Amazon and Disney or Paramount Plus or whatever. But I mean, I think we're gonna see like some maybe hit on the short term because of the coronavirus, but the trend is that people are going to pay more for subscriptions. Either they are kind of video subscription or music or newspapers or quality content, quality media. I think people is willing to pay. And we will see maybe not in the short term because of the coronavirus, but maybe on the longer term.
Yeah, in my case, I have three. I have Amazon because of Prime, I have Netflix, and I have, well, I also subscribe to Apple Music, but it's a different thing. But anyway.
People sometimes pay for, I don't know, the economy subscription or the financial. I mean, we at the end of the day, you put like a list and you have a lot of subscriptions that you may not think they are subscription, but they are. So I think for quality content entertainment, I think people is willing to pay.
Okay, I got another question for you. Just let me read it here. Give me a sec.
Okay. No problem.
Yeah, the question is, how can, that's a very good question, David, for you. How can we join Viacom?
Well, I think you can follow us in kind of, we have a very nice LinkedIn profile. I think it's Viacom CBS EMEA. We post kind of jobs in there. We have offices in Madrid, Lisbon, Paris, Milan, so in major cities in Europe and in Asia. And as I mean, we're looking more for kind of digital profiles because we are transitioning to this kind of digital world. So I think I encourage people to follow us on kind of LinkedIn because I think that we use this tool for posting kind of jobs and positions. And we're looking for this kind of more kind of digital profiles daily.
When you say, so guys, pay attention, check it out, what Viacom CBS has online in terms of job posts. Well, when you say digital profile, I've been working in this industry digital for 20 years, and since the start of the web and so on, and on and on we hear this conversation about digital profile. I understand there is legacy media, and there are some sort of skills that if you not update, obviously the person will not have space in the market. But is there any particular point in terms of digital skills that someone needs to have today?
Yeah, I like this question because I mean, it makes me think as well because digital is very broad. What is digital? No?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think that profiles that have skills in business intelligence called data analytics, it's important. Profiles that have experience in growth. So everything that has to be with growth and growth. When I'm talking about growth, it's about customer acquisition.
Acquisition, right.
Customer retention. I mean, the first one about business intelligence, data analytics goes very connected, but there are specific profiles that have they have knowledge in kind of the growth and it's kind of how to acquire these kind of clients. And this is what is the mix? What is the profile? How much I have to spend in Facebook, Google Analytics to get the subscription? How is the funnel of subscription? What is the return of investment? So these kind of profiles I think are critical these days. And the retention ones, which are very close to them. I mean, once you acquire, you have to retain these subscribers, no? How you retain them, no? How you bundle, how you promote. I mean, I think these profiles are like very important. Another one, which is more generic, is like business development. I think business development is a role that is going to be increasingly important. People which is able to work in this kind of very crowded environment and is able to partner with people like Samsung, like Google. So these kind of profiles are also important because every more and now we see that partnerships it is really important. So in a nutshell, I mean, all that has to do with analytics, growth, and development. I think our kind of profiles are very kind of in demand. Probably not in just on the media industry, in many industries, I would say.
Mm-hmm. It's not just being a community manager of Instagram. No. It's not just content.
No, to be honest, I mean, from my speech, you see, I mean, I'm not talking about community management. More about how to make your business grow.
Yeah.
how to take it to the next level. I mean, everything has to be with growth, exponential growth, which is like another kind of word that we use a lot these days. How you can make your business grow by 5x. So you need this kind of profiles, that business development, the partnership, that make you, that know the tool to make the business grow in a profitable way. So these are kind of profiles in demand, not just in media, but in many other industries, I think.
Yeah. So David, we are getting to if there's no other question, so let's see if the audience wants to ask something. We are reaching to the 6 o'clock, which is here in Spain. And is there any other question here by on the chat? I don't think so. So David, you want to say something to conclude your brilliant presentation?
No, I mean, I've been really happy to participate. I hope that people have enjoyed what I said, and that it was helpful to everyone. And I mean, just to conclude, I mean, I think that the ESIC is a really nice school, and people get really prepared for what is outside the when you finish your MBA or you try to find your first job. I think ESIC adds a lot of value in your profile. And that you have to be, I mean, you have to be open to opportunities, and to have like a flexible mindset. It's important. I mean, I finished my MBA like 22 years ago, and I still in contact with the school. So I think this is like a good sign that ESIC still brings value, not just to the current alumni, but I mean to the ex-alumni as well. So this is kind of my final statement, Carlos. And I feel really, I mean, thank you very much for guiding me to the presentation, because it's been really easy for me. So thank you very much, Carlos.
Thank you very much, David. Wonderful words. And we are really happy to have you as part of our alumni, a very successful executive, and that share with generosity your knowledge with us. So in the name of ESIC and the unit of professional development, I'd like to thank you, everyone that participated in this conversation. We will share the record, the file after. And I'm Carlos Victor Costa, and I was delighted to have David Urgell during this e-talk. Thank you very much. See you and talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.